How many of your crew members have you seen since the war?
Have I seen? I don't think I've seen any. I've talked to them on the phone, but I don't think I've seen any of them. The tail gunner's daughter I spoke to quite a bit. He used to be quite active in this organization, but unfortunately he died, and I spoke to her mostly. And then I lost her phone number when we were out in Las Vegas. I was going to meet her and didn't even know her maiden name. I mean her married name.
Okay, other crew members, what was the name of your co-pilot?
Colantino. He worked for the telephone company after he got out. So did I. I spent 38 years with them and retired. What other name? The name of the waist gunner was Eddie Waters, one of them. He was a fellow from Washington, D.C. And Brichetti, I forget his first name. Brichetti was from the other waist gunner, and he was from Pennsylvania. The tail gunner was from Milwaukee. He's the one that got married and divorced. Peterson.
Navigator?
The navigator was, let me think about that one. I can't. The bombardier was Peterson. He's the one that got killed, a 19-year-old boy. And he was from Minnesota.
Where did you go when you, after you got back on the Queen Mary? Where did they send you?
They sent us to Atlantic City. That was the replacement depot, I guess you'd call it. And they checked our health and everything else. We if we were on any medication they needed to give us there, and they gave us there rather. And from there I was sent to, again, Madison, Wisconsin. And they didn't know what to do with us. They had no idea what to do with us. And unfortunately or unfortunately, the major that ran the outfit had a son in the Air Corps that was flying, and he had a lot of sympathy for us. So we had no duties at all except go to town occasionally. Lots of times, I should say. So then they asked, what would you like to do? Well, I said, I'd like to keep flying. So they sent me to Reno, Nevada, to radio school, and I was going to be assigned to the ATC, the Air Transport Command. And after school there, they sent me to Memphis, Tennessee. And that was a big base for the ATC. And my first job was to fly back to England, because the war was over, in Europe, that is. And we picked up the plane, and it was a B-24. And everything was similar as far as I was concerned. As far as the flyer is concerned, it was a little different. But I understand it was a faster plane. And anyway, we get back, and I forget where we brought this plane. And then by train, we came back to Memphis. And I got a leave of absence. And while I'm on leave, the war was over. I'm in Washington, D.C., all by myself on the way home, nobody to celebrate with. So I went to the nearest bar. I couldn't even get a drink. I mean, the place was a madhouse. So I got home, and finally, and they had a block party the following night after the war had ended. And that's where I met my wife. Not this wife, I'm sorry, the first wife. And that's one of the products of that marriage. And unfortunately, my wife died a few years ago.
Well, Tell me about your base in England, and what towns were you near?
My base in England was Great Asheville, and to me, I thought it was the name of the base. You know, Asheville. For my son and I went back there, and all I knew was Elmswell. That's where the bar was, you know, and I figured that was the town. To go to Elmswell, nobody knows. There's nothing there that looked like an airfield. So there's a young couple there coming home from church, and I said, "Do you know where this Great Ashfield was?" "Yeah, that's a town right up here." That's the first time I found out a Great Ashfield was a town and not the name of the city, or the town rather.
Did you have any contact with the local English people while you were there?
Yes, but I didn't have any, I didn't make any real friends, you know, just acquaintances at the bar for one night or another. And then London, you didn't meet anybody there. I went to shows. I like to go to musicals. I still do. I love musicals.
Did you get to spend some time? Did you get a trip to the Flack Farm?
The Flack Farm.
For the art?
Oh yes, yes, yes. We did that for a week. They gave us civilian clothes to wear, and that was about the 15th mission, I think, something like that. Yes, that was nice. It was different. That's all. It wasn't exciting.
Were you waited on hand and foot?
Yes, we did. They did that. We had a mission where they gave us pancakes, and these were like bombs. I mean, these things were, whew. I don't know how, and a lot of fellas got sick on the mission. And we got back at the briefing. They mentioned this to the debriefing. They mentioned this to the officers. You know how they were sick on the mission, and what our colonel did was say, "When my men fly, I want them to have fresh eggs." Every mission, we got fresh eggs, which was unusual there. We got those, I don't know if you ever tasted them, but powdered eggs during the war were not the powdered eggs you get today. They tasted like rotten eggs, really. That's the only way you could describe them.
How about your commanding officers? Were they supportive? Were they?
Yeah, they were. Well, I got to tell you this. Our commanding officer for the squadron, we had a thing going with him. We'd always steal his Jeep and park it in as far away from his orderly room as we could find. And this poor guy would go nuts. He'd try to find out who was doing it. Mum was the word, you know. But they were nice guys. They really were. They're very supportive.
Did you find yourself at all making friends with other crews?
Yes. In fact, one fella just died. There was a crew that we all had trained together. I trained with the radio operator. My pilot trained with the pilot. One of those things. Excuse me. And we had breakfast one day, went on a mission, and they didn't come back. They were prisoners of war for the remainder of the war. But it's funny, you know, you have breakfast with somebody one day, and we didn't know what happened to them at first. Then we got word that they were prisoners.
Was that pretty hard coming back?
That was hard. That was one of the bad things about the missions I was on.
So when you got back to your hut, had their things been moved out?
No, they weren't in our hut.
Okay.
They were in a different squadron, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
But yes, in the hut, I was telling my son about, he was asking about if relatives could fly together. And I think it was a voluntary thing. Just remember the Sullivan Brothers. I guess you heard of that. After they were killed, I guess if you requested and you wanted to fly with the person, they allowed it. We had a pair of twins come in one night, And they went on a mission the next day. I don't know where they trained, come to think of it. They just came in the one night and they were killed. Both of them, the plane went down, and it's the last we heard of them. That was hard to take, too.
On the Berlin mission, did you lose a lot of planes out of your group? Do you remember?
You know, I didn't keep tabs on that, really. I was more interested in my crew, and that was it. You saw planes go down. You just hoped it wasn't you, that's all. Now, I see a thing in the movies occasionally where they show a B-17 being shot down, and the thing is going straight down. Well, I was on that mission and saw it live. Now, there was a lot of flak on that mission, a lot of flak. And unfortunately, both of my brother and I came back without a scratch. My cousin, by the way, became a ground operator, so he wasn't in the 8th Air Force.
So, how many of your crew members have you seen since the war?
Have I seen? I don't think I've seen any. I've talked to them on the phone, but I don't think I've seen any of them. The tail gunner's daughter I spoke to quite a bit. He used to be quite active in this organization, but unfortunately he died, and I spoke to her mostly. And then I lost the phone number when we were out in Las Vegas. I was going to meet her and didn't even know her maiden name. I mean her married name.
Okay, other crew members, what was the name of your co-pilot?
Colentina.